Another question a potential client may have is, should we talk to the press? Now, why does that come up? In our scenario, we've got a renowned researcher at the university, and at some point, if these allegations become public, the press is going to know about them, and they're probably going to want to report about that. Anytime you involve a university official or professional with these types of allegations, it's quite common for the press to make some kind of inquiry and probably to write some article about it. There's a number of schools of thought about this, and there are great lawyers I know who take very extreme positions on this. I know lawyers who are certainly outstanding lawyers who take the position that you never talk to the press. I have one friend who represents very high-profile people who never speaks to the press at all, and it's her rule. She won't speak to the press under any circumstances. I have other people I know who are outstanding lawyers and highly regarded who say you always speak to the press, that it's part of your obligation to help control the narrative. We take a different approach. I will say this, that the press is rarely a friend to my clients, certainly in the early going of a case, because the press doesn't know everything about the case. What they know is generally what some oftentimes confidential source has told them about the prosecution's case or the investigator's case if it's a different proceeding. If it's a university proceeding especially, all of that is confidential, so anything they're hearing is probably a leak or talking to a witness who may or may not be very reliable. So the idea that that reporter is going to be helpful to my client is not impossible, but it's not likely, certainly in the early going. The other thing we got to remember is that the more important relationship here may be the other side of the case, the investigators we're dealing with, whether it's the university officials or the medical board, and things we say could impact the way they approach the case or the way they perceive. If they perceive our comments in a certain way, it could harm our negotiations, our discussions. And the other thing is we don't want to say something that's inconsistent with the way we're going to respond in those official documents. So I think it's important to be very careful when we engage with the press publicly. Now, it is also very important not to ignore the press and not to ignore the potential fallout from the publicity. So in general, we are always engaged with the reporters, we're always engaged with the press. We're just not necessarily engaged in a way that leads to our comments becoming public. We can't ignore it, but at the same time, we certainly have to be aware that generally press coverage is not necessarily helpful to our clients, and helping our clients is the important objective.